people, it's me Anja, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a new recent reads video. The first book on this list is called Lucha and the City of Gold. This is the latest book in the Lucha series, and initially before I picked this up, I thought that this was the conclusion to this quartet, but apparently there's a fifth book coming out in March, so I'm really excited for that. So essentially, this series is middle grade fantasy, and I really enjoyed this book. This book was on my list for my most anticipated 2021 releases, and I would say that this book definitely lived up to my expectations, but it didn't exceed my expectations. You know what I mean? I did really enjoy this book, and I ended up rating it 4 stars because I did really enjoy the action-packed, fast-paced plot, the setting, the world building, the well-developed characters. I really enjoyed the group dynamic in this story because it's so solid. I just love the friendship that has been formed between the 5 of them. You know what I mean? Like, these characters are so well developed and so distinct, and I'm so excited to see them again in the 5th one in March. However, I will say that I enjoy this book just as much as the 3rd one in this series, but not as much as the first 2 books in this series. You know what I mean? Like, the first 2 Shah books are superior to the 3rd and the 4th ones in this series. But with that said, I will say that I highly recommend this series because it is so good. Roshani Chokshi is such a talented author. I feel like most people associate her with the Gilded Wolves, but the Lucha series is also really good. So with that, I would highly recommend this series because it is absolutely so good. The next book on this list is called Pulp by Robin Talley. This story is YA contemporary / historical fiction because it's set in alternating timelines, one in 2017 and one in 1955, because it follows 2 girls from those 2 separate timelines who are connected by a lesbian pulp novel. This story was so good. I really enjoyed how the alternating timelines were very connected and cohesive, and the 2 characters from those alternate timelines were both like emotionally connectable. You know what I mean? Like, they were both distinct and 3-dimensional, and I was emotionally connected to them both, and I was so intrigued by both of those storylines, and I just really enjoyed it. The story was so well done, and it was so like educational and insightful, and I just loved learning about like the queer history featured in this story because it was so well done. This story is so good. I would say that personally I do prefer Music from Another World, which I read about 2 months ago or something like that, but Pulp was a great story, and I would really highly recommend it because it was so good, and with that I rated it 4 stars, so yeah. The next book on this list is called The Space Between Lost and Found. This story is middle grade contemporary and follows a young girl named Cassie who's navigating life with her mom who has early onset Alzheimer's. I really enjoyed this book, and I ended up giving it 3.5 stars because I just really enjoyed it. Cassie was a very realistic, like 3-dimensional, distinct character. You know what I mean? The plot and the story were very awesome and just were so cohesive, and I just really enjoyed it. This story kind of reminded me of The Science of Breakable Things, and I just really enjoyed this story because it was so well done, and it was kind of like comforting and hopeful. You know what I mean? Like, I really enjoyed like Cassie's dad and Cassie's mom and their relationship, and I really enjoyed how the story showed like the relationship between Cassie and her mom, but also Cassie and her friends. You know, like all the relationships in this story were so well done and felt very realistic and just 3-dimensional and distinct. Like, the story is so good and it's so underrated, and with that I gave it 3.5 stars. And if you're wondering why I didn't give the story a higher rating, it's because to me this story wasn't super distinct, but I would say that the story is still very underrated and more people should read it. So with that, I do recommend it. The next book on this list is called The Miraculous. This story is middle grade contemporary and follows a young boy who stops believing in miracles after his baby sister dies after 8 days, until he's forced to go on a journey to face his grief. This story was so good. I had somewhat high expectations for this story because I had read a previous book by this author earlier last year, and now I'm so excited to read her next book that I think comes out next month or something like that. But at any rate, The Miraculous was so good. Jess Redman is so good at crafting 3-dimensional distinct characters and crafting friendships and just crafting a nice, wholesome, whimsical world building. You know what I mean? Like, this story is so well done. It was so good. The plot was so thrilling and intriguing and just so excellent and wonderful. The world building was so good. It was so lovely and wonderful, and I had no idea what would happen next. You know what I mean? And it just felt so comforting and hopeful and wonderful and lovely, and I rated this book 4 stars, and I really enjoyed it. And honestly, between this book and her previous book that I read last year, I don't know which one I would prefer, you know, because both books were so good. Anyway, I would really recommend this book because it was really, really good, and like I said, I rated it 4 stars, so there's that. The next book on this list is called Jelly. This story is middle-grade contemporary, and it follows a young girl named Jelly, who's plus size and has been hiding privately how she feels about her body until opportunity strikes and gives her a voice. This story was so well done. It was so awesome. I love that the story talked about body image and internalized fat phobia, and just having a plus size main character in a middle-grade story is so important and so timely, and I know that there's so many young readers out there who could really resonate with Jelly as a character, and she felt like such a relatable, like realistic, 3-dimensional, distinct character, and I just really, really enjoyed hearing her voice because her voice made the story shine, and the story is so good and it's so underrated, and for what, the plot was so intriguing and it felt so wholesome and wonderful and lovely, and this story is so well done. I really, really enjoyed it, and with that I gave it 4 stars, so with that I would highly, highly recommend it. So in conclusion, my least favorite book by default is The Space Between Lost and Found, because that's the only one that I rated 3.5 stars. As for a favorite on this list, honestly I can't choose one because I really enjoyed all the books on this list. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the mushroom emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!